This episode of the Speedway Show is brought to you by Avalon Raceway, Essendon Mitsubishi, Essendon Ford, Camden Signage and Building Services, and Par Motorsports. And in this issue we cover the first round of the Geelong Harley-Davidson Easter Trail from Avalon Raceway, part 2 of the Shane Stewart story, and also a quick interview with female racer Rhiannon Burley. But right now, it is the opening round of the Geelong Harley-Davidson Easter Trail. Two battles on hand for this one. We've got the Easter Trail for the Geelong Harley-Davidson Sport 500 motorcycle. We've also got the track championship, the Essendon Ford Track Championship, where a Ford Fiesta is on offer. And that is currently being fought out between the Victoria 52 of Darren Molyneux and the Victoria 36 of Tim Van Ginnigan. But on the front row for tonight, we've got a pair of threes. We've got Ian Loudon in the Essendon Ford house car. We've got Stephen Lyons in the West Australia 3 Halls Haulies. Reportedly the last weekend we'll see Stephen Lyons in the West Australia 3, with that deal supposedly being run. But in the meantime, it is time for the final here at Avalon Raceway, and our pole sitter Ian Loudon in the Victoria 3 getting off to the best possible start. But Ian Loudon, it's Steve Lyons there. Pair of threes. Look at the steam coming off the right rear. That is steam, it's not smoke, due to the moisture in the racetrack, due to, of course, the lateness of the season. Plenty of moisture in the air. Quite a cold night at Avalon Raceway tonight, and we see a lot of grip, a lot of traction there as we see Domain Ramsey into the wall very early on in the Victoria 2, the Indy Race Parts. Victoria number 2.
Boy, the pace will be rapid out in front. Will traffic play a part in this one? What Stephen Lyons got for Loudon?
As we just heard Gavin White say, what has Stephen Lyons got for Ian Loudon? Right now, very early on in the race, not too much, not showing hand at the moment. Although Darren Molyneux, the Victoria 52, is looking pretty racy on the back of Stephen Lyons right there. But in the meantime, the guys and the racers all out front. It's Ian Loudon in the Victoria 3 for Essendon Ford. Sean Dobson, the Tasmanian, in the ACT 21 we just saw there for a moment, also in an Essendon Ford supported car, but he's got a lot of work to do coming out of position number 11. And again, we see the steam coming off the lead two cars, and a bit of smoke coming off Darren Molyneux's car back there in third place. That is a genuine concern. The last thing you want to see is smoke coming out of one of these $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 power plants. But doesn't seem to be slowing them up too much at the moment, as we see the field coming through there a little further back. And we are back to our leaders, who are already under the tail of the field. So Ian Loudon on the high line through 1 and 2. On the back of that early issue, Domain Ramsey dropped to the back of the pack. And still we see Stephen Lyons shadowing in Loudon, but Loudon got a great run, threading the needle there between Jordan Charge, the youngster, in the Victoria 60 for Western Nissan, and the V2 of Domain Ramsey. We just see a moment there for Domain Ramsey, and upside down for... Well, let's have a look at the slow-mo as we see the cars coming down the back straight. We just saw for a moment there, it was the V52 of Darren Molyneux, just getting a little out of shape. Now keep your eye on the Victoria 2 as we go through the bottom end of the racetrack, turn 3 and 4. The right hand side of the screen there, and we see the V2 just has a little moment right there, gets the wheels up, and Domain still carrying the front and just eases the throttle a little bit there for a moment to bring the nose back down. Stephen Lyons, quicker car, suddenly come up on the Victoria 2, threw the car sideways and on the brakes. Of course, these things turn on a dime when you hit the brakes. Around he goes, and just the traction of the racetrack is enough to grab that big right rear tyre, and using the momentum and the weight, and all of a sudden Stephen Lyons, quick as that, upside down and out of the feature event. Tough night for Stephen Lyons, always one of the favourites. Alright, so we come back to our restarters. Now Ian Loudon from Darren Molyneux and Marcus Dumsney in the famous Victoria 5 of his father Max Dumsney, first time ever that one of the Dumsney family, the younger family I should say, has been given the keys to the car and the truck. Mitchell Dumsney and Max's wife Melinda have raced his car from time to time, but Marcus was actually given the keys to the car, the truck and the whole crew for the whole weekend, and that is the first time that has ever happened. He's doing a great job, as we see there. Tim Van Ginniken of Victoria 36 just managing to get past young Marcus and take the challenge to Darren Molyneux. This, of course, is the battle for the fabulous Ford Fiesta, courtesy of Essendon Ford, for the winner of the Avalon Track Championship. And these are the two guys fighting for it. Whoever finishes in front of these two is going to drive away with that fantastic little car. Oh, we got a bit of a moment there, an issue there we have. Milburn into the fence.
Marcus Dumsney. Sean Dobson's not done with yet. That 21 car has been mighty so far.
Time to go. Exactly. Gavin White doing a great call as usual. Loudon, Molyneux, Van Ginniken and Dumsney. And all you can just see at the top of the picture there, the Victoria 5. Lots of sparks coming off the rear brake disc. As we see Van Ginniken just having a little bit of a moment there, and that'll allow Sean Dobson. Where did Dobbo come from? Remember, he started back there in position 11, and already he is now up into the top 3 with that nice move. Van Ginniken, he's an elbows up racer. He likes a rough and hooky racetrack. It doesn't bother him at all. But he just had that little moment, and Dobson sliding through there.
Have you heard of Australian Highline magazine? It's Australia's only totally free online digital speedway racing magazine. It's full of big, beautiful action and artistic images from some of Australia's best motorsport photographers. It's got national and international events, profiles, tech articles, history, comment and occasional controversial article, all penned by some of the sport's leading journalists and columnists, and it's all free. Australian Highline magazine. Have a read today.
Absolutely, have a read today. www.highlinemagazine.com.au. Totally free. And we're back to the action that was going on while that app was running. We see now the Victoria 88, the Matty Eastham owned car, driven by two-time national champion David Murkoff. And the big news for this team is that they will be contesting the entire World Series Championship next season. But that's next season. Right now we're still here at Avalon Raceway watching the action, and it is great action. Dobson again now up into second place. Oh, it's a little bit of a rut there again. Another one of the another one of the guys that doesn't mind the track too rough. Has a very unusual driving style as Dobson. He does sort of hunch forward over the steering wheel. It's there's a colourful phrase that we use in Speedway to describe that, but I'm not going to use that one right now. But Sean Dobson. So we've got an Essendon Ford 1-2 out front with Darren Molyneux back there in third, Tim Van Ginniken in fourth. And of course that is the two battles going on here. The one battle is to win the feature here tonight, and that would put you in good stead to take the Geelong Harley-Davidson motorcycle after the 3 days are over. But the second battle there is the one for the Ford Fiesta, which is being provided, of course, by the sponsor of these two cars, as Sean Dobson slides up the inside of his quasi-teammate Ian Loudon to take on the lead. So Dobbo, a storming drive on a difficult racetrack, coming through from position number 11 up to the lead, passing some very solid cars and drivers in the process, and continue to drive away. As you see that car, it's working hard, it's bouncing through turn 3 and 4, and the battle there for third and fourth. The track championship, it tightens up as Van Ginniken slides up the inside of Molyneux, but can't keep the car together. He hits some ruts, and Molyneux comes back to take third place, and the Ford Fiesta is his for the moment. Van Ginniken sticks it back up the inside, but they're on the back of Andrew Hughes, the rookie this season in the 410 sprint cars, doing a good job. So he was checked up there for a moment, Van Ginniken. Look at him. Look at the battle between these two guys. Absolutely side by side as the V5 of Marcus Dumsney is spun out up the top.
Put it on him a couple of times and got wide. What TV he got for 5 cars.
Alright, exactly. What has TVG or Tim Van Ginnigan got for Darren Molyneux? And we can see it right now, closing in on the back as these cars are bouncing and bustling through some of the ruts in the corners. Van Ginnigan back up the inside of Molyneux. A couple of Warrnambool boys going hard at it. Warrnambool base for Molyneux, Allensford, which is just outside of Warrnambool for Tim Van Ginnigan. But the battle here, out front, it's all Sean Dobson right now, as the battle is for third or fourth. But he's a track championship. It comes down to this. It comes down to right here, right now. Whichever of these two guys finishes in front will drive off in that fantastic Ford Fiesta, courtesy of Essendon Ford. As we see the Essendon Ford car of Ian Loudon, our pole sitter, who's now back in second place with a little bit of a gap there, opened up by Sean Dobson out front. Battle continues, although Van Ginnigan's dropped back a little there.
David Burcott in turn number 1 brings on the red floor on the final lap. Burcott brings on the red, the cars on its side here in turn number 1. What a crazy couple of laps that was. Man, they banged wheels for that third position between Van Ginnigan and Molyneux. That's for a car. Molyneux has an advantage that I think was unassailable as they got the white flag penalty, and he was on his merry way, and now we go red. With 1 to run, we'll go back a lap. This one's not done with yet.
Just the thoughts that go through your head when TVG wheeled up out of 4 on the inside of Molly. You had visions of contact, cars coming together, and all of a sudden Ian Loudon having the keys to the car.
This vehicle will leave the circuit, the lights go out. What a moment. It's come down to this final 2 laps of the night. Sean Dobson, the whole track in front of him. He's going to put down the 2 best laps of the night to fend off Loudon. Molyneux's got to do the same to fend off Tim Van Ginnigan for a car. Braden Palm off in the spoiler back.
We just heard there from Gavin White and David Mills. 2 laps to go. We're on to the last lap. Under the rules of racing, we go back 1. We must have a green, white Jago. And look at Dobson. He's just storming away at the drop of the green. 1 lap from home, and here's the battle for second and third. Van Ginnigan's taken third place, and the car with just less than a lap to go, coming through the top end. Oh, contact between the two combatants as they come out of turn number 4 for the last time. Again, side by side. And we have to go to the tape for that one to decide that by 0.013 of a second. Darren Molyneux gets that third position and the car. How unlucky was Tim Van Ginnigan. Great drive by Sean Dobson. Great drive also by Ian Loudon. And bad luck for Tim Van Ginnigan. Alright, looking at the slow-mo of that fantastic last lap, the V36 on the inside, coming off turn number 2, a little out of shape. Contact between himself and Darren Molyneux as Molly was trying to make his way down to the inside, running through 3 and 4, but it's not all done yet. You would think so by looking at that gap right there, wouldn't you? You'd think Molly had this one in the bag. As we see on the exit at turn 4, he's run a little wide, he's left a little bit of a gap there. And Van Ginnigan with that right rear tyre steaming away up the inside, hits that line, as I said before, 0.013 of a second, and Molly gets the car. Well, we move on now to part 2 of our Shane Stewart story. Of course, American brought out by Brett Milburn to contest this year's Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic.
We're just out at engine starts and just trying to get a bit of heat in our motors and get the oil temperature up to temperature as well as the water, as we can't start these cars in the pits. They have to be push started, so that means we have to come out, get them all engine started. We pull into our marble drawer normally where we'll time trial. Once we get the heat in the engine, we'll make sure everything else, we've got no fuel leaks, everything's running nice. Shane can check the wing make sure all the hydraulics in the wing ram are working forward and backwards, make sure the power steering pump and everything's working fine, the wheels are all turning. Just go over the car, make sure there's no loose nuts and bolts. Hopefully then we'll go into hot laps and we'll be able to get our tyre stagger and all our suspension componentry right. Once we get that right, hopefully he'll get a fine adjustment after hot laps, and then we'll be able to tune it up to hopefully go out for our time trial and hopefully set the quickest lap we can, and that'll give us a good start to the weekend. And if we can do that, we'll hopefully get into some good heat racing, move forward and pass some cars, and see where we end up at the end of the night.
On the second night of the Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic, it was Shane Stewart's turn to time trial to qualify, and the American veteran understandably cranked in a fantastic time to get him third fastest overall, 13.215, which then leads us on to the heat races. Shane had a fairly reasonable run with a couple of third place finishes. We'll see him battling away here in an early heat. His first heat, the importance of course, time trials will get you starting towards the front. A fast time trial gets you towards the front of your first heat. Very, very important as we look at Shane in the 68 there, trying to work his way through some lap traffic. And also battling with one of the favourites, West Australia 17, the Milwaukee Chulls entry there of James McFadden. James, of course, now a Warrnambool resident, or at least his mother and father are Warrnambool residents, so he's a little bit of a local, but he also has plenty of US racing experience. Racing against Shane Stewart, coincidentally, in the world of Outlaws, the pinnacle of 410 wing sprint car racing. James only does a few shows in the US every year, whereas Shane Stewart does 90 to 100 events in the US. As we can see from the action here, Shane just continuing on, fighting it out for those very important points, preliminary points, to get you into the preliminary feature that will hopefully lock you straight in. Of course, you've got a second night of competition still to go, and hopefully the results of the 2 nights of competition locks you straight into the all-important A main. And as a former winner of the Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic, Shane Stewart knows how important those great heat results are. So we now move through our couple of heats. He's done fairly well, and we're on to the preliminary final, which also carries some points towards the second night. You can see the 4 white salute to the fans. Ian Madsen on the inside. Local hero and defending champion Jamie Veal in the 35, James McFadden in the 17, and our own Shane Stewart starting out of position number 4. A couple of South Australians in Matt Eagle and Brad Keller starting on the row behind. So Ian Madsen has never had a feature win at the Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic, or Warrnambool for that matter, as we see Brad Keller straight away up the inside of Shane Stewart, and we saw again the steam coming off the right rear tyre. So even though it was January, in the heat of January, there's a little bit of moisture there early on, although it is a bit black on the bottom, so it is possible that was actually either a bit of steam or it could in fact be tyre smoke. But by the fact that Shane Stewart is running in the brown, not the black, I tend to suggest it's actually a little bit of steam coming off the moisture. We see a couple of mates there in Jamie Veal and James McFadden fighting it out there at the front of the pack, and Shane Stewart trying to be part of that battle. See him now running a little bit of a low line there. You can see he's just keeping the right rear off the black part of the racetrack down the bottom end through 3 and 4. Depending on how your car sits, sometimes the black stuff can be faster. Generally it's not. Hence the reason Shane was keeping the right rear off the black and onto the brown part of the racetrack, if you like. Brad Keller, that pesky South Australian, one of the smaller teams, but this boy has been driving sensationally, especially considering that he broke his back in last year's Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic. His return to form has been sensational and not daunted one iota by the goings on and the speed of these cars around this awesomely fast Warrnambool Speedway. And as we head towards the end of this event, the laps are counting down. Shane Stewart still battling hard. About a 30 lap final. Getting past Jamie Veal, the defending champion, as I said. We can see the black line now down the back straight is almost from the bottom up to the fence. Hence the reason Stewart is on the high line. He's preferring that. He's finding the drive up there in the moist, or the more moist brown part of the racetrack. And now battling with the lap traffic. We see the 77 there of Braden Parr, one of the young guys, only about 17 years of age. And he may have been lapped by Shane Stewart, but you can see he's actually not losing any ground to Shane. So it's a fantastic drive by the 77 of Braden Parr. But the wily veteran in the 68 machine, doing the job he was brought out here by Brett Milburn to do. That is, put the car up towards the front. Final lap now, we can see Shane Stewart taking third place, and all important points. Ian Madsen getting that first win ahead of Jamie Veal and Shane Stewart. Well, next up on the Speedway Show, we've got a great interview with one of the girls taking it to the boys. Rhiannon Burley is interviewed by our own Glenn Lawless.
Rhiannon, welcome to the Speedway Show.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So, Rhiannon Burley, the Burley name is synonymous with Speedway. Can you tell us a little bit about where the Burley family history in Speedway started?
Yes, started many years ago up in Nullawarre. I believe they started out at Lang Speedway racing, back 60 years ago. It then went on to my dad and my uncle. They raced a mini sprint. And they just did it locally and, for a bit of fun. And then I came along and we came here Boxing Day, actually, and they had the junior sedans as a support class. And at the time we lived up on a farm and we had the paddock bomb, which was a little Toyota Corolla. And Dad came home and said, let's put a roll cage in it and see how you go. 10-year-old little girl just went, okay, no worries. And then the next year we were racing. So that's where we started. And then when I turned 16, I didn't really get much of a step up or anything. It was kind of, here you go, there's that, and off we went. Here we are, 6 years later, sixth season in a sprint car.
So, your childhood, where did you grow up?
So northern suburbs of Melbourne. We did move out onto a farm in Darrawheat Gwym, which is just in between Romsey and Sunbury there. So we had 100 acres, and that's where I learnt to drive. So at the age of 8, I learnt to drive a manual, and that was the Toyota Corolla. School, I went to Gisborne Secondary until year 10. I then left and did a Diploma of Beauty, which I worked in for 5 years. And now I work for the Department of Justice, working for the government.
Fabulous. So racing a sprint car, what was the catalyst to get you into sprint car racing?
As I said before, it kind of just fell into my hands. It was when you turn 16, it's kind of, do you stop or do you move up? And I was just lucky enough that, Dad was willing to put me into a sprint car, and that's how we started. So there's a lot of work behind a sprint car when you actually go racing. So who does the work? How many hours work do you do, and where do you do it? So my dad does most of the work. We are a family-run budget team. So the car lives out at his house in Doreen, and he will spend hours on it each night after work. I do try and get there as often as I can, but being a shift worker is kind of hard. So I would say at least, 10, 15 hours a week minimum, just preparing the car each week.
So obviously at the moment, racing sprint cars in Victoria, what's your Speedway ambition?
I think I have the ambition that most of the drivers here tonight will have, and that's to eventually race in the US. I've been over a couple of times to the Knoxville Nationals, and that's the dream. So you're living the dream at the moment, but the next dream is to actually get yourself onto the world stage. Yeah, exactly. This is living the dream. We're very, very lucky to be able to do this, but yeah, the world stage would be exactly where everyone would like to be. And who's your most fierce competitor? Who do you respect most of all? Oh, good question. I would say it probably changes year to year, but obviously Jamie Veal's probably the one to beat around here at the moment for all the guys, and that's probably him. Have you ever raced any other classes? Just the junior sedans. I have had a couple of goes in the wingless sprint, and I've also had a go in a street stock.
Well, thank you for your time. Every success tonight, and thanks for every success trying to get onto the world stage. Rhiannon Burley, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you for joining us here on the Speedway Show. Catch you next time.